and welcome to a new season of Spotlight One. I'm Karen York. We're excited about the start of the 2024-2025 school year in Richland One. Thursday, August 8th is the first day of school for our students, and we're excited to welcome them back to school. And I'm excited to have with me as my guest for this first edition of Spotlight One, Toni Kelly Campbell, who is coordinator of school social work. Toni, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
Welcome back, that is, right?
That is
Happy
true.
to have you back. So I know you're excited about the school year, right?
Very excited.
Yes.
I found myself getting butterflies the other morning thinking, okay, it's about that time.
Right. So tell us a little bit about you first before we dig into our topic for the day. How long have you been in the district, and what do you do as our school social work coordinator?
Okay. Well, I have been with Richland One for over 20 years.
Wow.
And it doesn't feel that way, but over 20 years. And I was hired to be the school social work coordinator. And one of the things that we all know is that most times in jobs, there's other things as they're put on your plate. So
Yes.
I have worked with our mental health contracts in Richland One. I have worked to improve student attendance. So student attendance is a big piece of my job. And certainly I work every day with our school social workers. At times I'm also working with our district crisis team. So the job is one of those jobs that no 2 days are alike, but it's one that I love.
Yes. And we could do a show about each one of those things that you mentioned, and we have you come back, particularly to talk about the mental health piece, as well as our crisis team. I think that would be interesting for folks to hear about the crisis team and how that works. So we'll bring you back to talk about those two things. But we are here today specifically to talk about attendance as we prepare for students to start school on August 8th. So first we want to emphasize the first day of school for Richland One students is Thursday, August 8th. So we can't make any assumptions, but we definitely expect all of our students to be in school on August 8th and throughout the school year for those 180 days. But first, let's talk about what are the rules, so to speak. What are the policies and laws as it relates to students attending school?
Okay, I'll start first by talking about the law. In South Carolina, we have what we call the South Carolina Compulsory School Attendance Law.
Right.
And what that says is that students that reach age 6 before September 1st through age 17 must be in school every day unless they have what we call a lawful absence. So that's the basic law. So basically we're saying children need to be in school every day, all day. So
Now, what is a lawful absence?
a
Give me an
lawful
example.
absence would be something like illness, contagious illness, of course, flu, chickenpox, things like that.
Okay.
A lawful absence could be a recognized religious holiday. A lawful absence is a dental appointment, things like that.
Okay.
So, but I also encourage, though, that when students have appointments, that we make those appointments early in the day and we get our students into the habit of coming to school after the appointment or making that appointment on the end of the day so that we can have our students in school. So there are lawful absences.
Okay. All right. All right. So we don't like to say problem. We like to say opportunity. But in terms of attendance, do we have a problem, an issue, some challenges with student attendance in Richland One?
I like what you said, challenge. The challenge is not only in Richland One, let's be clear.
Sure.
The challenge is a worldwide challenge, and it is a post-pandemic challenge. When schools reopen to full-day learning in class, in school, in building learning, what we found is many of our students did not return. So Richland One is not unlike other school districts around the country, around the world, that is working to re-engage and have our students back in school on a consistent basis. So it is something we're working with.
Talk about that a little bit more post-COVID. So is it just irregular attendance or Talk about how that plays out.
Okay. Well, what we found is that when it was time for students to return to in-school learning, that we just, we missed a whole segment of students, particularly some of the older students who maybe found employment during that time and were not as vested as in returning to school. And then there was a segment of families that maybe felt that, well, they missed school some days, or they did half days here, or they did in person on some days and on video other days. Maybe they didn't need to be in school as the law requires every day. But what we're hoping that parents will understand is those were extraordinary times, and we're back to getting into our regular ordinary times of when we expect our students back in school all day. So I think maybe the level of importance and the level of what students are missing when they're not in school all day was not fully recognized during the pandemic.
And we're still seeing that?
Absolutely.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
we are still seeing that.
Okay, wow. So it's kind of a crazy sounding question to ask, but how important is student attendance to their success in school?
Okay, well, it is vitally important.
Yes.
There are many things important, certainly the wonderful teachers and the wonderful academic program. But the thing that I always say is that we cannot get to the academic program and our teachers unless we have those students in school. And there are studies after studies that point to the relationship between a student being in school every day and how well that student will do academically. And it starts early. There are so many lessons that students learn in school that are not only academic, but that are social, emotionally related, that having this student in school every day is going to be vital to that child's later success, not only in the workforce, but also in life.
And of course, we've talked about student attendance before. And I know you shared with me that there are certain times of the year where we really have to encourage and remind our parents, for example, okay, school starts back on X date. So would that include the start of the school year? I know you've talked about, for example, like after the winter break and those times of year.
Yes. One of the things that we face every year is that we have that families will be on vacation. There will be family reunions, and family reunions tend to occur with people that may live in different parts of the country. So what will happen oftentimes is that when our start date occurs, we may not have our students there because they may still be on vacation. So one of the things that we want to stress with our parents is that we in fact start school on August 8th, and on August 8th we begin the work. Sometimes the thought process is that, oh, they're not going to do very much the first few days of school. Well, I can attest to the fact that I'm out in schools on the first day and the work begins on the first day.
Right.
I've witnessed it for, as I said, over 20 years.
Right. So is the word truancy still used?
Absolutely.
Okay. So when is a student, or when does a student become truant, and what happens at that point?
A student is truant in South Carolina when that student has 3 consecutive unexcused days absent. That's 3 in a row, or 5 cumulative, or a total of 5 cumulative unexcused absences. That student is by law deemed a truant student. And there's certain things that have to happen by law. So I always express to our parents that this is not something that Richland 1 came up with. This is something that is in the law of South Carolina. And it is also in the law of, I want to say, 48 or 49 of our states across the country. They have truancy laws.
So what happens at that point?
Okay, once a student is deemed truant because of those absences, an attendance intervention plan must be put in place, or an attendance improvement plan must be put in place. That plan should include the parent, school, and school staff sitting down and finding out the reason that that student miss school, because one of the things that we want to know and we want to do is we want to work collaboratively with our parents, and we don't want to be in a situation where it's I gotcha. It's more like, is there a reason? What is it that we can do to help mitigate the number of absences? What is it we can do so that we can ensure that your child is in school every day? Because there are many things that we can do. If we find out, say for instance, maybe a parent just did not know what the truancy law says. So making sure that the parent is aware. And all of those things happen when we sit down with the parent and we do that attendance improvement plan. We'll sit down at the school. We can do, if necessary, the plan through a video conference, through some sort of Zoom link or anything like that. And what we'll do is we'll come up with solutions. It's very solution focused. You know, what is the challenge that the parent has in getting the student to school? What is the challenge the student has? Maybe the student feels challenged in some way. And then we come up with a solution. And then once we have a plan in place, we all sign off on the plan, and then we monitor that plan. And yeah.
Apart from, you know, maybe lack of knowledge or awareness about the truancy and, you know, the laws that apply, what are some of the other reasons that you and the school social workers find in terms of why you don't have that regular attendance among some of our students?
Well, we may have a student who in family that is experiencing homelessness, and the student may miss school just because that family does not have a regular residence, and that family may be moving around from night to night. A big reason our students miss school is illness, and making sure that parents know the proper process so that when their child is absent, that they must furnish either a parent note or furnish a doctor's note. And if you get to 10 parent notes, at that point, the school will stop accepting parent notes, and unless there is some other factor in place, like maybe that child has a chronic illness. And if that child has a chronic illness, those are the kinds of things that it's great. And we want to know, it's great for the parent to sit down with the school, make the school aware. We have school nurses in all of our schools, and we'll sit down and they'll do a health plan for that student. The student will also be assessed for other services, such as maybe homebound. Maybe it's an intermittent homebound issue where that program needs to be set up. But we need to know these things in advance, because otherwise the absence is there, the academic program is interrupted, and the student misses out on valuable academics, as well as all of the wonderful social things that a student gets in being in school. And our young ones, playing is a big part of it and of their development.
So as we said at the top, we're getting ready for the new school year to begin Thursday, August 8th, first day of school for students. What are some tips and reminders that you can offer our parents for how they can help support what we're trying to do in the schools in educating children, but as it relates to attendance?
Okay. I always say preparation is key. So today, I would start talking to my child about going back to school. And part of the conversation is school starts on August 8th. Let's count down how many days it is if it's a younger child. If it's an older child, having some conversation about, hey, how do you feel about school starting back so early this year on August 8th?
Right.
What are your thoughts there? But reminding them constantly and beginning to make preparations. One of the best things to do with all children is to look at bedtimes, because typically during the summer months and during vacation times, everyone's sleep schedule gets a little bit off.
Yes.
So starting to change that bedtime so that at bedtime is a little earlier if necessary, and really making sure that in the morning your child is up a little bit earlier so that it will not be a body shock on the day on August 8th.
Yes.
So that's one big one. So, and another thing that I think is vitally important is speaking positively about school. Getting your child excited about all of the different things that they will learn. If they are going into high school, okay, talking about all the freedom that they will have being a high schooler to move about campus, to join various clubs, and maybe some of the things that they did not get to do in some of their earlier grades. At their younger grades, talking about growing up, and this is another step into growing up and into going into middle school and actually changing classes, things that they may not do as much in our elementary age. So just positive talk about school. There's so many things. Another thing that I advise parents to, and most of us, go to the dentist every 6 months. Some go more frequently, but making those appointments when possible early in the day or late in the day. And I find that our doctor's offices tend to be very receptive to that.
Right.
And what we find is most places are open at least until 5 o'clock. So if we can get one of those 3:30, 4 o'clock appointments, that's nice. And if
later
we
in the day, right? Yeah.
And then the student can come to school. One of the things that even as parents and guardians we should impress is, you can go to the doctor or dentist, and then we're going on to school, because I think sometimes the message gets sent that, we got a free day off because we have this appointment that might only take 45 minutes. So that is something. One of the things that is very helpful in the line of preparation is once school starts, making sure that clothes are laid out the night before. If you're like a lot of our children, they're very much into fashion and having their own style. So making sure they made those decisions the night before, it makes their life run a lot smoother. And another thing going along with that is packing backpacks. If the backpack and the homework can be packed up the night before, that's a wonderful thing, because that means that when the bus is almost there or when the car ride is ready to go, then the student's backpack just needs to be picked up and they're out the door, versus trying to gather everything in the morning. And I'm a big proponent of not rushing students in the morning or rushing kids in the morning, because it sets the tone for their day.
It does.
And so those are some of the things. I would also, as we mentioned earlier, making sure that if there is anything the school needs to know about any ongoing appointment that a child has, maybe the child is seeing, it maybe has braces or something like that, or maybe the child has allergies and has to be out on a regular basis, making sure that the school knows about all of those things on the front end, and that we work a plan that is, I guess, helpful for both sides, so that communication is really going to be key.
And we do have a tool by which parents can monitor their child's student attendance. Talk about that.
Yes, we are so excited. I'm glad you asked me that. We have the Richland One mobile app. And as part of the Richland One, mobile app, you have selections on various apps that you can select once you go to the Richland One mobile app. And one is the Power School app. We are aggressively, assertively, wholeheartedly asking parents to please download that onto your phone, because one of the things that does is it gives you as a parent real-time information regarding your child's grades, attendance, and you can find out when a note was put in that you sent, because oftentimes I've had parents say, well, I sent the note and the note got lost. So you'll be able to check that. You'll be able to ensure that your child has attended every class if they're in a middle school or high school that's on period attendance. And you can look at any time, and you can set notifications. You may decide that you want a notification every time your child is absent. So you can verify those kinds of things. So we're really excited about that. On our webpage, the Richland One webpage, I believe there's some information there. And we also have been working internally to put out a handout, electronic handout, as well as paper handout, so that parents know how to do that. Our staff will be talking to you as you go into schools to grab that cell phone and say, let me help you do this. And so you can look at all the functionality of that app. So the Power School app.
So we encourage them definitely to go ahead and download that. before the school year begins
Yes.
on Thursday, August 8th, so they can have that and they can monitor their child's attendance throughout the school year.
Absolutely.
That is wonderful. Well, Toni, we appreciate you coming on the show. And like I said, we do want to have you come back and talk about some of those other areas that you also work with.
I will be more than happy to, and I thank you for allowing me this space this morning.
All right. And school starts when?
August 8th.
August 8th. So we're excited about seeing our students. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this edition of Spotlight One.